So if you're in the US, you say SAVEURvape because they can't pronounce a French word. Anywhere else is SAVEURvape.
But in French, though, it's Savoie.
Correct.
So it's not even...
So France was our biggest market when we started. We never were a huge US company. We sold to 3 people in the US and got an order from France, and France just went...
So for our viewers, we're just picking it up right now. I'm here with Lonnie Bozeman from
SAVEURvape.
And we got the name down right. I cannot say it properly ever.
I mean, if you're on the phone talking to customers, it's definitely SAVEURvape every day.
Oh, that's great. So Lonnie, let me throw this at you. It's a bit off, but you're one of the best people for me to ask because you are original OG e-juice company in California.
Sure.
And what we got the sense of early on when we were covering this was there was a disdain for the amount of money young people were making in this industry that didn't exist before, and they're peddling tobacco, and they're doing all of this stuff. There's just something dirty, illicit about what you all built.
Yeah, so I think I can answer your question relative to today, right? So certainly that was the perception. There's a lot of young people in 12-step programs that for whatever reason just kind of traveled, and they all went, oh, I can do this really easily. And they got really far, you know, they got to like the 80-yard mark, right? And they're like, man, I got a company, right? But then they forgot like accounting and taxes and all these other things, right? And a lot of them fell off. I think that what you're really asking is, what is public perception, right? And if you're on the West Coast and you're looking at vaping, it's a bunch of semi-successful younger guys and gals that drive i8s, because if you make a little bit of money in the vape industry, you gotta buy an i8. And if you're back east, it's the smoke shop guys, and oh my God, they might put a smoke shop under a yoga studio. And the public perception is bad, right? Unfortunately, vapor products have integrated. They have, right? You find them in smoke shops, you find them in convenience stores, you find them in gas stations. This goes back to my point of public education, right? There's no national commercial that says, don't panic, right? The studies that you read were wrong. What the news people told you were wrong. You've been lied to. It's actually a safer alternative. So instead, what they know is that the guy that sells bongs downstairs from the yoga studio now has a sign that says, proudly selling Juuls, you know? And so I think the public perception is still so ultra tainted by i8s and head shop guys, and it's going to take years, if ever possible, to convert that to a place of harm reduction.
Let me ask you this. What was your reaction to Juul? Let me give you an opportunity to give some analysis on what Juul may have done right and mostly what they may have done wrong in, say, the latter half of 2017 into 2018.
Well, I think most importantly, and I think what a lot of people forget, is what they did really right is they donated a lot of money to the VTA, right? And so I applaud them for that, and I applaud them for their efforts. I think that they're often criticized for a lot of things, but there's some good there too, right? And most importantly, I think what they're most recently criticized for, and something that I strongly disagree with, is their response to the FDA in regards to flavors. We obviously have the science to prove that adults need flavors, right? The transition from cigarettes to gummy bear, menthol, culotta, right, works, right? It just works now. We know, we don't have to talk about it, the science is there, it's a wrap, right? Juul, as a market leader and majority shareholder of this industry, kind of came out and said, sure, we'll cave, right? They're really good at going to the FDA and they're good at having these talks, and then when it's time to put the boxing gloves on, they sort of skeet that way, right?
Or they did, actually.
Yeah, and so that creates a bit of a tension, right? And they, whether they want to believe that they're big tobacco or they don't, they certainly don't come from the big tobacco, realm, they are now perceived that way in the eyes of the FDA and most of the industry. And I think that you have a responsibility to step up and fight.
It was a bit shocking, actually, that their reactions seemed to be so orientated in the mistakes that big tobacco have made.
Sure.
So when they caved and then threw $30 million at the problem and said, we'll give you that, like almost in a panic.
Of course.
And
it smells of this thing called the MSA all over again.
Totally.
Right, let's just buckle, we'll give you money every year, we know our sales are baked in. It's like, wow, man, like you have a life-saving technology and you buckled.
What about California? Because certainly it's getting bleaker and bleaker there. And that's your home state. That's where you're from, that's where you started. It's where a lot of the big e-juice companies started.
I think the concern with California, and I'm hoping that most of our advocacy and legal professionals that are involved in the industry and the fight to save the industry don't sort of shun it like they have in the past. It's such a hard state to navigate. The problem is, and we've said it over and over again, is that when California goes down, it has a tremendous rolling impact on the country. And I think that more now than ever, it is especially true. If California pushes a full state flavor ban, you will absolutely feel it in multiple other states, and I think it'll start on the East first. I think the East Coast typically follows suit, and you'll start to see a lot of those other colored states start to follow, and it'll follow quickly.
Now, California specifically had the right ingredients to give birth to the industry.
It did.
And it also has all the ingredients to kill it.
Absolutely.
How is that possible?
Again, regardless of your political views or my political views, there's a lot of opposition to vaping there being basically a full democratic state, right? I mean, there's just not a lot of conservatives there, and there's not a lot of people in office willing to help. You have sort of a one-man advocacy group that makes a lot of noise and shows up to the flavor ban events. That's good, but it's never going to be good enough. The lack of lobbying, even though there is some going on, it's certainly not enough. And I think the lack of attention from multiple advocacy groups and trade associations has hindered it in a way that I think most people didn't expect. And I don't think most people thought that California would get so neglected. But again, being such an important state in comparison to what happens when California rolls, it's now one of those situations where if you don't pay attention to it, you're gonna feel a rolling effect throughout the country. And candidly, you might not be able to reverse it even with really strong federal legislation.
California and its populace, as you said, is democratic, which means they care. That's at least the story, is that they care. They care about social justice,
sure.
They care about homeless, and they care about a lot of things, but they don't seem to care about smokers.
If they did, they would look at the science behind vaping and e-cigarettes in general. I think that it's now there, right? It goes back to my point earlier, right? You now have the science from Canada, you have the science from the UK, and the endless studies that the MHRA is willing to provide anyone. In Europe, they're providing cig-likes in the jail systems. The science is there, right? What you choose to do with it is another story. And I think when you look at California and the sheer amount of special interest and sort of bogus funding, right? You start to understand why, right? This is no longer a game of science and health. This is a game of protecting funds. This is a game of protecting special interest. And especially in California, where you're very top-heavy on save the kids, save the kids, save the kids. You just look at the Juul data, right? It's, did the government do their job on enforcement, or did we just sell to everybody that was bad, right? And I don't think that that's quite what it is, and the data source shows it wasn't.
So are like-minded business owners like yourself getting together to do something?
If the vape shop owners and a couple of guys my size can get together and put lobbying efforts together and weigh on guys like Mark Antoine or Tony Aboud and say, hey, we'd love some direction from you so that we're not contradicting each other, I think that's a fantastic thing. I think the more people talking to senators and congressmen and public health officials and the FDA, the better, right? We're looking to survive right now. That's the goal, right? It's just survival. And I think the more the merrier, right? The more that step up to the plate, the better, and kudos to those guys for doing it, It's been a small group of people for a long time that just took a little bit out of their business. But if everybody took 200 or 1,000 a month out of their business, this wouldn't be a fight anymore. This would be done. We would be done. This is a problem nationwide of underfunding, constantly.
Really? So,
absolutely.
So more money even at this stage would be enough to help solve this?
If every vapor business in the US put in $1,000 a month, we would not have a long-term problem. So
paint a picture for us for 2019.
Ooh, I'm not sure I could paint a picture for you for the first quarter of 2019. I think, from a business perspective, the market looks good again, right? It's, we've learned how to take the bell curve of the FDA, their highs and their lows, and sort of plan around it. Distributors don't lose their mind and sell everything the minute that something happens. Juice companies, I hope all the guys that flooded the market with their dollar products are done. And I think we're sort of at a stable-ish spot. Now it's a place of regulatory and legislation, and I think that, you know, I can't help but believe that we'll see a bill probably introduced soon favoring us. I know that you'll see a lot of Democratic opposition. I know that the VTA and I know that Troy and those guys and what they're doing privately have a great lobbyist. So I think you're going to see a lot of Democratic lobbying, which is, you know, really important.
Where's this bill going to come from?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but I bet.
But
you
not
see
the Democrats.
I don't know who would introduce it, you know, but I bet you see a bill in 2019. There's no crystal ball here. There's no way to predict any of this, right? Not since 2012 when I started doing this. You know, in 2011, it was gravy. We got to do whatever we want. 2012, they started to look at us. 13, we went, oh, we better pay attention. 14, we told people to start changing their labels. 15, we felt the heat. And it's been full burner since, you know? And I think that's what it is now. If you're not ready to really dance with the devil in this industry, right, it's probably time to go become a diamond cutter.